Ballistic was a publishing label used by Accolade due to contractual issues with Nintendo. The immortal John Hancock here with another ranking video. I've done several of these. The link will be below. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. This was a request by you for me to cover Ballistic on the Sega Genesis. And in these videos, I take every game that was published by a game company and talk about them. Now, Ballistic is kind of a special case. Their publishing label was used to re-release several games for the Sega Genesis. I'm going to talk about that later, but right now, and the focus of this video is the 11 original games that Ballistic was used to publish for the Sega Genesis in North America. And so let's get going. I'm going to be using this scoring sheet, and that shows you the point value for each grade I give these games. You may have different opinions, and that's okay. We can still be friends. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. And so here we go with Ballistic, and we're going to start off with the arcade classic Double Dragon. Now, the thing to say about Ballistic original releases is that they were in these two-part cardboard boxes. They were kind of universal for both Mega Drive and Sega Genesis. And they had a black and white manual, and they had the Accolade kind of unlicensed carts. They're the same size of an EA cart. Now, there's going to be a lot of fans out there that like this release because it was a lot like the arcade. A little bit different, a little bit faster, and a little bit cheaper. The enemies will pursue you in this game. Two-player awesome action. There's the 5 levels from the arcade classic. I like this game. I like this version. It's the most faithful to the arcade port. I think it's a good release, and I'm going to give this a B. All right, next up is kind of a mediocre baseball game, Hardball. Now, there are awesome baseball games on the Sega Genesis. Triple Play has been mentioned before. Sports Talk Baseball. You know, there was so many great baseball games. Hardball falls short. I think it's just an average baseball game. I do not like the fielding or the base running in this game. And so also, when you bat, you have to press A before you initiate a play. And so it kind of, to me, the batting is probably the most difficult in this version of baseball. It is from the perspective of the pitcher, it does get a little bit easier the more that you do it. I don't think this is a bad baseball game, but there's so many other great baseball games on the Sega Genesis. This is not one I'm going to go back and play. I'm going to give this an average C. Next up, Ditka Power Football. I would rename it Mike Ditka Generic Football. This just is not a good football game. I absolutely hate how you pass in this game. It kind of jumps from the quarterback to your receiver, and that is just an easy way of getting your quarterback sacked. It has one music track that plays over and over and over again. So like Hardball, it doesn't have the actual teams, just colors and cities represented. You know, there's some decent modes in this game. It looks Madden-ish, but with so many great Madden games, I did a ranking of those videos, by the way, there's no reason to go back and play this kind of below average generic football game. But when it comes down to gameplay, it is below average. I'm going to give this a D. Onslaught is an uncommon strategy game, action strategy game. It was ported over from Classic Computer, and you know what? This game is pretty interesting. And so you have like this overworld map. There's hundreds of levels that you play. And so the goal is to go from point A to point B. It's fairly uncommon too. Finding a complete copy of this on the Sega Genesis is pretty difficult. Your character in this game is constantly overwhelmed with a volley of enemies. And then eventually there are boss battles on the overworld map. And so I had fun playing this game. I don't think it's great though. And it takes that classic computer option of using up for jump, which I absolutely hate, and applied it to this game. The graphics are decent. The other weird thing too in this game is that you have to choose in the menu to listen to sound effects or music. You can't have both. And so there's just a couple gameplay and sound options in this game I do not like. I think there's going to be a lot of fans of this game. There is a lot of gameplay value here. I'm going to give it a C. I've mentioned in several other videos, I'm a huge arcade fan and I love arcade game ports. And Sega Genesis had several of them, and one of the good ones is Super Off-Road. Now, this version has lots of detail. There is only 2-player options for this game, and so that's kind of a bummer. But the tracks are detailed and it's just off-road racing fun. After each race, you can upgrade your truck. Now, the enemies can be cheap in this game. Sometimes it does that RC Pro-Am style where you're never going to catch first place. But there's lots of levels in this game. There's great upgrades, fun music, great to play with a friend. I'm going to give this a solid B. Great game. Next up, this game is near and dear to my heart, and that's Star Control. Now, Star Control is awesome, okay? So let me explain why. It's actually 2 games in one. Most people are gonna do the Melee in this. Now, Melee is taking ships from the Alliance of Free Stars, battling the evil Urquan. This is a fun starship battle game, but it's not just that. You take these ships 7-on-7, you can battle against the computer, you can battle against the friend. There's a ton of strategy here. It's very awesome. 3-button starship battle space war style game. By itself would be amazing. But what they did is they put in 15 battle scenarios and added a complete different game, a galactic strategy game thrown in, hours and hours of gameplay. So if you're a big space strategy fan with space combat, this is great. But then if you just want the action, they give you an option just to do that. And so I think this is one of the best games on the Sega Genesis. This is one of the best Sega Genesis games, and I don't give many games an S. This game's an S for me. If you haven't checked out Star Control, you must. It's a total S for me. And here are the rankings so far. There's certain computer titles that people played and it just brings a smile to their face. You know, they're revolutionary at the time. They offered something unique. And this is one of the games, and that's the Dual Test Drive 2. Now, for many people out there, you play the PC version of this game. And you know, the perspective of kind of this first-person perspective, kind of casual racer. And, you know, for me, the Sega Genesis had many different racing games that I prefer over this. The Genesis port is below average. I don't think this is a great game on the Genesis. It has limited car options. You only have 3 tracks. And, you know, there's difficulty settings, but I just thought it was boring. The graphics are decent. And I think for the time, this was revolutionary. Home computer versions of this game had an expansion and offered a lot more options and cars and things. You know, this is just kind of a bare bones release. I found that the content was lacking. Avoiding traffic in this game was annoying as well, and not my favorite racing game. I'm gonna give this a D. All right, this next one's kind of confusing. And so Ballistic actually originally released this. There's a lot of confusing information of this next release, and Ballistic actually released it originally under Ballistic, and so it's Tin Head. Tin Head is a wonderful action platformer, kind of in the same vein as Vector Man. Has great graphics, 24 levels, 4 worlds, lots of different items and power-ups. This is a really solid platformer, and I enjoy going back and playing this. It was re-released, and the information out there says that Spectrum Holobyte, which originally developed the game, published it. Here's the confusing thing though. I have the cardboard box version of this game. We're going to talk more about these cardboard box versions, but on the back it does have the Ballistic sticker saying that it was published by Ballistic. What Ballistic was is they re-released several games, and so Tin Head is one of those, but they did the original release. Oh, it's so confusing. Anyways, Tin Head is an excellent game. The clamshell version is common, and you can find this fairly cheap. The cardboard box version, ooh, that's really, really rare. And I give Tin Head a solid B. All right, next up is a disappointing port from the Amiga, and that's Turrican. Turrican, just on the Genesis, does not translate the awesomeness that was found on the Amiga or even the Commodore 64. Now, recently I did a Turrican flashback video on the Switch, and it has the Amiga port of this. So going from the Amiga port and playing the Genesis one, knowing that there's other awesome Turrican games on the Genesis, this just falls short. Now, I think it's very cheap. It's too easy for your health bar to go down. I think the control is almost too fast. The sound is just average, taking the amazing Amiga sound and just kind of porting it over to just kind of generic Genesis sound. This is going to be disappointing. If you're going to play the original Turrican, play the Amiga version or even the Commodore 64 version, this is a C. This next one is a strange one because it essentially is Turrican 2, but they worked a license for Universal Soldier thinking that it would sell better, probably because the original Turrican didn't do that great. Anyways, Universal Soldier is technically Turrican 2 with some character changes and some other things. This is a much better game because Turrican 2 is a much better game in my opinion. And so better power-ups, better gameplay, less cheap hits. There's 3 Turrican games technically on the Sega Genesis. This is the second best and definitely a step up from the original Turrican. I enjoyed this game so much more. I think it plays better, looks better. This game can be uncommon to find complete, but check it out. It's a solid B for me. All right, that leaves one final original published game under the Ballistic publishing label, and that's Winter Challenge. This is a collection of winter games, and unfortunately it's not well done on the Sega Genesis. Choppy animation, the graphics are okay. It definitely has a decent 3D engine, but it's just slow and boring. Biathlon's kind of interesting, the skiing and shooting event. You know, I had a lot more fun going and playing, you know, skiing on television. The one thing going for this game is you can go jump right into training and check out all the different events. Unfortunately, a lot of the events just aren't that fun to play. And so I'm going to give this a D. So that is the ranking, and a link will be below for you to do your own ranking. Also, want to say that Ballistic was used for several other games, and I don't have them all. I nearly have them all, and the picture is here. And as you can see, Ballistic was used by Accolade because they went to court with Sega and settled out of court. They became an official license, and so what they were able to do was to republish several Sega Genesis releases, and you know, they re-released them in the cardboard boxes. And what they have is they have a sticker on the back. And so these are fun to pursue and collect, but there are several of them. And there's not a great list out there of every single game that Ballistic re-released. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. And I want to thank everybody for this video. What's next? What do you want me to cover Sega Genesis wise for ranking? I would love to hear in the comments. I'm also going to do an upcoming vote as this one was chosen by you. I want to thank you for the ongoing support and hopefully you enjoyed this awesome video. I do several videos a week. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the immortal John Hancock. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a good day.